Boo. So what'd you think of it?
Okay, so I have a lot of thoughts about this book, but first, should we say that anyone who is interested in reading the book should not listen because there will be spoilers?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Well,
Yes.
I guess you just...
Okay, so this book is different in that I feel it is best to read or listen to without knowing anything about it.
Right.
Right? I ended up liking it. I gave it a 4 on Goodreads.
Okay.
How would you rate it?
Oh, I don't know. 3 or 4, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I had to give it a numerical value.
Okay, so between 3 and 4 stars?
Yeah.
Okay. Believe it or not, it was a solid 4 for me because I have never read anything like it. And, well...
Like it as in, you mean less content, more style, right?
Yes. Yes.
Because I'm sure you've read something about a...
Yes.
Maybe not a fondler, but at least a scary killer person.
It's not my genre, and the only reason I read it is because it was chosen for
Right.
book club.
So you would have never picked it up otherwise.
Right. Well, yes. I mean, so I chose it, but then again, I didn't. Just because
it came from a jar, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was a book suggested by one of our book club members among other titles, and it was just one of the ones that I chose. What were your issues with the book? Or should we talk about what we liked most about it?
It's almost like the same things that I liked about... Some of the same things I liked about the book is the same things that I didn't like.
Oh, really?
So, for instance, he built all the stuff with the creepiness of like the hopscotch and the pennies, and how it was in the photos, and how the killer went back and put it on the memorials. And then it gets to the interview, and he was like, "What about that?" And the killer was like, "I just don't want to talk about it." And in a way, I guess that is true to life, but at the same time, you put so much emphasis on these things, even if the killer didn't want to talk about it, you could have still like hinted at something, or put like enough in there that made us think that, oh, that's what these signify. Some things were just built up and never really clarified, I guess.
Okay, or elaborated on,
right.
I guess.
Which is true to life, because there's things that happen and you have no idea, but at the same time, you are creating something fictional, and so it's a choice at the same time.
Okay, so that is very interesting, because those didn't bother me, mainly because I thought that it fit the true to life description.
Right.
But with me, I knew starting the book that it's cataloged as fiction,
Right.
but I knew that it was based on actual events. But what I loved about it was that I didn't know what was true and what wasn't. So
that the actual events was the fondler.
You forgot to say the Phantom Fondler.
Okay, he toned down the fondler in the story. It was like a couple girls. You get to the author's note, and it was in the double digits. That fondler was busy. It's busier than John.
Okay, that's terrifying in its own way, because after reading this book, Ryan, sleeping at night has not been the same for me, because if I was turned to the right where I see the side of the bed, I would always swear that when I opened my eyes, something or someone would be standing there.
So do you have a window on that side, or is it a wall?
Window. But we do have blinds, but still, it's, I don't know.
Yeah.
So, yes, I don't even like to stick my arm out over the bed now,
right.
Just because it's just too creepy. But, so did you ever wonder which parts were true and which weren't? I mean, because that's what kept me intrigued.
I think he pretty much clarified it by the end. I think I was more intrigued by...
I mean, but as you were reading it, though, like, weren't you still trying to parse all of that out? Or, like, did you have a clear idea of what was true and what wasn't?
I got the idea that the killings and the killer and the characters in the pictures and stuff were all fictional.
Okay, I
But
can't
and
wait to
I
ask you
guess I
something.
wasn't trying to. I guess I wasn't trying to figure out what was actually real and what was not real because I really like that metafictional blend of something like this where it makes you wonder like what is truth and what is not truth. I enjoy that. So I was less concerned about what is actually real and not real versus more of the whodunit aspect, like just the simple
Yes.
baseline why people read thrillers is to find out the reasoning. And I guess that's why I was disappointed too because the reasoning wasn't as strong. Like
Okay.
how did he go about and like okay the part with the when he pulled his spoilers. It's happening. The part when he pulls his sister out and he explains, "Oh, she accidentally cut her finger, and then I got the idea to put it on the windowsill." That was neat. Like how he did all that, but then they still left these like almost like supernatural events. How he like pulled the girl like right off her porch, basically. Like how did he do that? He's just one guy described to basically be like my height and even shorter than me, I think. And how did he just like in the middle of the night not hear any screams when the whole city's already or the whole town's already on edge? Like I want to know like a little bit. How'd you pull that off? Not that I want to like a how-to manual. I'm curious for the story. Yes.
I was fooled by the pictures. I thought, well, he has these pictures, so maybe the killings really happened. So I'm really surprised that you didn't see it the same way.
Well, one of the pictures kind of. You have an Apple Watch, right? Yeah.
Yes.
I swear, and this threw me off. I swear that's an Apple Watch. I know he said in the author's note that there was one mistake where they had the same actor
Oh,
twice.
see, I didn't even notice.
It looks like an Apple Watch to me.
Really?
It's
Because
the-
it looked different to me.
It's got the square face and like the button on the side. I mean, I don't have an Apple Watch, so I don't.
Oh, see, I thought that it was just like another kind of watch. But
I could be wrong. It could be.
okay, I think he did admit in the afterword that they goofed on the pictures because the same
actor was in
Same
two
detective?
different
Yeah.
same detective in two different decades.
But I didn't even catch on that.
I didn't catch him, and
Okay.
I thought about going back and trying to find which one it was, but I didn't.
The one thing that I thought was interesting was the picture of Carly Albright. Her glasses looked very modern. I mean,
Right.
it was really in vogue now and a few years back.
I
But
don't know. Aren't the 80s and 90s coming back?
yes, I guess. But
But I love the fact he included the pictures. I think creating it like a true crime book was a very interesting take, and especially since he doesn't really write. This is like his first novel by himself, isn't it? Or like the first one that's not like a sequel to something. Like this is pretty much
I think.
him on the page by himself. So it's interesting the route that he took.
Okay, can we also talk about the killer? Was it who you were suspecting?
Some of the stuff that he did put in there, I was almost expecting him to be the killer. The way he built some of the scenes, I wouldn't have been surprised. I mean, there's other times that it couldn't have happened, but there was just enough there that it almost seemed like he was in on it. But by the end of the book, I don't think he had anything to do with it. It was just leading up to there.
Okay.
Other than that, I didn't expect who it was.
Can we mention who it is, or?
Sure. If they wanted to stop it, they would have stopped it by now.
Okay. I started suspecting who it was when I started thinking about the girls, and the only one who was not sexually assaulted
Right.
was his sister.
Right.
So, but yes, I mean, I guess it was still surprising to have it confirmed that it was Joshua Gallagher.
Right.
But I thought it was well done, and I probably like it more than I should. I don't know, but it did put me on edge. So I feel that he wrote in such a way that it really did give me the creeps.
Right. It felt true to life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. All too much for me. Yeah. I mean, I told you that I was on edge all weekend when I was finishing it. But I was also telling our book clubbers yesterday that when I found out what was true and what wasn't in the afterword, I mean, it's almost like, oh, but Okay, this might sound macabre and just weird, but I am glad that that those killings didn't really take place. But it was almost like, oh, but it's not real when I thought it was. You know.
So you were disappointed that it wasn't real?
Yes.
Are you using this as a confessional?
You know what they say about the quiet ones, but then again, I'm really not quiet though, am I? Look, can you really trust someone named Joy? You never know. I mean, I think what really kept me truly intrigued and interested in the story was wanting to find out who was the killer.
Right.
And I knew that there was a twist and a surprise at the end, but I didn't suspect Joshua Gallagher until I was closer towards the end.
Are you saying the surprise was that it was Joshua, or there was something else?
Him, yeah,
Okay.
him. But I almost thought that it could have been one of, like one of their friends.
Right.
But so that was in the back of my mind too. And the part about when Natasha's and Joshua's dad kills himself.
I like that.
What did you think about that part? That was when I also started to think that it was him more so.
Oh, really?
Yes, I mean,
I didn't.
just because I thought that the father killed himself because he found something out about Josh and that he just couldn't live with,
Oh.
So that's
I mean, that
That's
is
how
what
I-
happened.
that's sort of how I interpreted it
That's
too.
not how I did. I just took it kind of face value.
Oh, that is so interesting.
But I also spent way too much time reading it back to back before everyone came to talk about it, because I was determined someone was going to. I was so scared that someone was going to like spoil it
Mhm.
that I did it so fast that maybe I just didn't take
Okay.
the time to think about it like that. I was just trying to get to the end.
Okay.
So maybe
Well,
that's.
And you know that I analyze everything I read. It's almost a fault.
And even oddly enough, no one gave anything away yesterday. So
I am so glad because Kathleen is planning to read it. And I kept telling her, should you even be at the desk? Because I really don't want you to know anything about this. And I think that's partly what increased my enjoyment factor, just not knowing anything. And I just really liked how he did it.
right.
And the pictures, I am telling you, they fooled me. They fooled the book club members because we spent, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 minutes complaining about how we were all duped.
Oh, see, I think the pictures added to it.
Don't you think
I
that
think it
that-
made for a better experience,
Okay, yes.
because it really did feel like a true crime book. It didn't feel like a novel. I did like the idea that how it had an ending and then it had like the updated 30-year later afterward. That cold case cop made it seem too easy. Like, I know he was just trying to like wrap it up, but she made it seem real. Like,
Yes.
she was on top of it.
Oh, yes, she was. So I went into the book thinking, okay, it's fiction, but these crimes have occurred, and then there are pictures, and so I was under the impression and thought that the killings were real, but he had to make it fiction because he added some things to it. That's how I read it.
Yeah.
So, and I know that it's different for each person. So you feel that I probably enjoyed it more than you did.
Maybe, but I didn't dislike it. I don't think it seemed like I absolutely hated it. Some things could have been a little tighter, maybe.
Okay.
But as a like a mystery, and some of the big reveal stuff was all kind of. I mean, the whole town was in the dark, so it's not surprising the reader was in the dark. But some of the stuff seemed very like Deus Ex Machina, like kind of too easy to sum it all up. But
Oh, you
that
think
is
so?
that's sometimes that's how life is. Like those little circumstances, and you might know your neighbor, but do you really know your neighbor?
Right.
Like that kind of.
Like, do you really know? You know who I am?
You really know Joy, the librarian?
Yeah, I'm almost surprised that the loose. Well, no, I'm not surprised. The loose ends don't bother me, just because I feel that, as you said earlier, it's more like it's
Right.
true to life.
Things were resolved. It's just some of the like the killings and some of the motivations and like the backstory.
Yeah.
That was all resolved. I feel it was just little things that were made that were such big deals in the book weren't
Okay.
turned out not to be the Chekhov's gun. Like
Okay.
there's the gun in the room, it needs to go off, and at least give a hint with like what the three, like just a hint. Like you don't have to tell me, just be like, oh, it was or like when he did the ears thing, I thought that worked. Like something like that would be fit. So like when Richard was like, why did you keep the ears? And he goes, oh, I just put them in a tin can and they started to smell, so I threw them out.
As souvenirs.
I like that. Like, that worked. It still felt true, but it didn't feel like you were just trying to, like, you didn't have an answer. I don't know, that the certain parts did work.
Okay.
But
See, but I liked not knowing, believe it or not. But then again, it just might be who I am. I don't know. I just thought that it would, it fit the story as far as I was concerned.
I mean, I guess different strokes. Some people. It's like if you go on vacation, some people want to buy the trinkets and some people don't. Maybe murders is just serial killer vacation.
Yeah, I don't read enough or watch enough about serial killers to really know like what they do with the appendages that they try to keep. I don't know.
I have no idea.
Okay, we are really veering now, but this just made me think of our other book, The Sellout.
Oh yeah,
Have you gotten further?
a little bit.
Because I am wondering if he actually committed.
I don't think. I don't know. I don't like.
Not
You
murder,
talking about why he's in court?
But some crime, I
I
guess.
don't think it's going to be murder. It's going to be something. It's going to be
Maybe
something.
petty.
Yeah, maybe petty might be. It's going to be something absurd, I think.
Okay.
But I'm also in a part where there's a lot of like little rascal stuff going on, and it's goofy, but at the same time so serious and so heavy. It's an interesting mix of you want to kind of laugh, but you don't want anyone to know you're laughing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it safe to say that it's a satire of society?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's like so far at least it feels like it's like a no holds barred satire.
I have to agree with you though, because the parts. I mean, I haven't gotten very far. I'm still in the prologue because I had to finish up some other things. But I know exactly what you mean. Some parts, it seems like it could be a lighthearted, funny book, but then again, the subject material is quite heavy.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to think about it.
That's gonna be one of the ones where I don't think I can form a valid opinion until like I have the last page done and I have every piece of information.
Okay.
So we'll see what happens with that one. Part of me doesn't regret basically pounding out the Boogeyman book in 2 days, but then again, there was a lot of things that I neglected over the last couple days, so I'm playing a little catch up. So I don't know. I don't think the Sellout's gonna take that long.
Okay.
I said it paragraphs are heavy and dense, and it's not a. I guess you could qualify this as a page turner because every good mystery feels that way to me. Where isn't that the point of the mystery is to keep you?
Thank you for including the word good.
Oh, I was about to have like a Pee Wee Playhouse moment where it's like the word of the day and the chair starts singing.
Okay, so when you said that you neglected other things, like are you referring to other books or just other things in general?
Pretty much other things in general. Like I said, something about like the story didn't freak me out. It was what freaked me out is that I was gonna come in and come like 12:45. Someone was just gonna barge in and be like, "The killer was blank," and I would be like, "Well, thanks."
Yeah.
And there's never really a problem. Like people, they come in and they do their thing and then they talk about it, but they don't bring it out inside this room, basically.
They are pretty tight-lipped, I would say.
Unless you ask them something. And they're like, what did you think? Or what did what did you think of this part? And then they'll be like, oh, you read it too, so the conversation will start.
Mm-hmm.
But there was just so many people around here picking it up. I didn't know who was going to start what conversation. And
True.
so I got really worried that I don't know why I'm like that. That's the extent I don't want to know.
Yeah. Well, I think with this book especially, it is the enjoyment factor for me increased because I didn't have any other information about it.
Because you want to solve it, that kind of thing? Or just because...
Yes, like if I knew... Okay, this is going to sound weird too, but I'm going to say it anyway. If I knew that the killings were not real, I would have read it differently. And I just don't think I would have felt it as viscerally as I did, just because I was really on edge at home. I was actually very scared. I had to make sure the doors were locked, the windows were,
I will say that I did, just because I did go and everyone was already asleep, and I went and locked the front door, or just made sure it was locked. Like, not anything unusual, but I did have the thought, be like, oh no, the boogeyman. And
yeah, with things that can really happen, that's what terrifies me more than like the supernatural things.
So now that you know it's not real, are you still as freaked out, or has enough time passed since you finished it, and now that you've talked about it multiple times, are you still as on edge, or now that the experience of reading it is over, are you...
I am not as on edge knowing that the killings didn't really occur, but it does disturb me that the phantom fondler was never caught. Okay, so the phantom fondler is different in that he, she, it didn't actually kill anybody.
Right.
He, she, it just wanted to fondle and caress.
See, that one, if the
but
story...
that's freaky, too.
The story was about the fondler. I mean, that could either be something you could make either, like, dark and scary, or you can make that kind of funny, Like, if you take the real, like, the people that it happened to, not funny, but you write a story about someone that's trying to sneak in and, like, tickle feet, like, that's kind of silly. The idea is just silly, but maybe that's why it's so terrifying, is because it's so unconventional.
Yes. Well, I find it captivating in a strange, weird way that somebody would go through the trouble of sneaking into a house one way or another, only to look upon their sleeping, innocent victim, to caress and fondle. That is just the oddest thing to me, but then again, not want to hurt them. Or that's what we're assuming.
Yeah, I don't think the fondler hurt anybody.
Why would you go through all that trouble and to possibly get caught?
Why would you put ears in a coffee can and throw them out a couple years later? I don't know. It's not my thing.
Yeah, maybe it was just a fetish. I don't know, right? If fondling fetish.
Yeah. I guess it would have to be if you go to those lengths. So.
The urge was so strong that you were willing to risk,
But that's the same reasoning. That's the same reasoning that Gallagher used. He was just like, they looked at me and he couldn't stop the urge. That's the same reasoning. Mm-hmm. Just a little less violent.
Okay. I also want to mention that they did such a great job of finding the right actors. it seems like the pictures were just so well done.
Yeah.
Just so well done. And how, the picture of Joshua Gallagher at 18 or 19 compared to when he was older.
Right.
They did a really good job. So, so surprisingly, I did like the book.
I did like the one picture that had Joshua and his sister posing together. Mm-hmm. I thought that was
the
unsettling little touch.
The uncanny resemblance.
Yeah. It was just unsettling enough that the verisimilitude of the story like rang true without being over the top.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it does raise another question though. Some people won't like a story because it won't seem true, and I wonder if that plays into people's impression of this one.
Okay.
So, because be like they'll read something or watch something and be like, oh, that would never happen in real life.
Mm-hmm.
Is that why people were so drawn to this one? Was because the way it was made that it did seem like it did happen in real life?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Just a question.
Well, and he just smashed everything together so well to where you really couldn't decipher what was real and what wasn't. Because I was thinking that the Phantom Fondler wasn't real. Just because I thought, how could he not, have been caught, or no one ever caught a glimpse of him, her, it?
I kind of like the fact that the only thing that was like besides the name and some of the characters, like the name and the parents and the cemetery dance, like that's all real. But the only other thing that's true out of all the other characters and situations is the Fondler. Something about that I thought was funny in a way.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to word it. It amused me in a strange way.
No, I was amused too to find out that was like the really only true thing, other than some of his own experiences back home with his parents.
I also want to know, so he kept getting the phone calls and the voice was very distinct. And the phone call wasn't just breathing and it wasn't just silence. There was a very deep voice. So did the Joshua dude just, hi, Rich? like
That's what I'm thinking.
Or was it like, I don't know, that seemed like one of those little just weird inconsistencies to me.
Yeah. Well, I think on the phone anybody can disguise their voice. I mean, that's just. You're looking at me like I'm very guilty of something.
Yeah, why are you so freaked out? You're not worried about something happening. You're worried about getting caught.
Yeah.
Because other than that, I thought maybe it was just some fondler. Phone fondler.
Phone fondler.